Hi, this is Mahesh Ravi, and welcome to a new video. And in this video, we will be talking about how to create this character from Cinema 4D. So there are a couple of things that you can notice about this character, and it's basically made with primitive geometry. So it's made with a couple of cubes and some capsules that you can notice with a bend modifier. So we will be going through this and render it out with this particular look. So let's get started. So here we are in Cinema 4D, and we're going to start with a basic primitive cube. So we have a cube right here. So let's move it to the center of our screen. And we have it right here. We just need a couple of modifications in here. So let's take a look at the polygon count in here. So we can just go to display and turn on Gorad shading to see the number of segments which are available in here. So right now it's very few. So you can see that in here that the segments is just one. So if you increase it, it's going to just, multiply like this. But whenever we are doing some sort of modeling and we want to later, let's say if we want to take it to a game engine, or maybe if you want to animate it, then a lot of polygons are going to create an issue. It will be a burden on your system, and it will make the operations run really slow. So for this particular character, we don't need this many segments, so we're going to just keep it, reset it back to 1. So we just have it. But what we need is we need the edges to be slightly round in look. So what we're going to do is, in this option in the object tab, we are going to turn on the fillet. So now they have created a couple of additional polygons in here in the corners to make it look round. So we can change the radius right here. So I'm just going to change it to 25, and that's the look that we want. And we can also scale it in a way that we actually want it. So we need the height of this to be a little like this, so we can adjust that, and we can see it that it's looking pretty good. So we have this right now, and we are going to use a screen space. We are going to create a screen space right in here. So we're going to use the Boole operator in Cinema 4D to create that sort of intrusion in the main cube. So let's call this cube big, and we are going to create a duplicate of this by clicking Control on your keyboard and dragging this on an axis. It is going to create a duplicate of your box. So let's change the name to small. So we have the big and small right now. We can scale this down. So I'm going to scale it down. So I think this is fine. We'll just move it a little to the top. So we can just see that, okay, so this is the screen space that we want, and we will just pull it out a bit. So we just need a slight little, intention. So this is actually fine. We can change this later also. So we have 2 cubes right now, and we need to add the Boole operator to this. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to the settings here, and we are going to select Boole from right here. So now there is one trick in adding this. So what we need to do is that we need to add the small cube right into the Boole. Then we are going to take the big one and add it as a child of the small inside the Boole. To create the Boole right now, we just need to take the big and drag it to the Boole, right? So right now we can quickly create a screen space, sort of a dent right in here. So if we think that this is too big, right, we can select this. So this is completely procedural. You can go back and adjust it, and we can bring this right here. So create a small dent in here. So this is what we want, and it's looking perfect right now. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is that we have this. So let's name this as the TV head. So let's call it TV head, or TV head right now. So what we're going to do is we are going to add a screen right now, right? We have the space here. We're going to add a screen. So what we're going to do is we'll create a plane instead of cube. gonna go here, we'll create a plane. We have a plane right here. We'll just go to the coordinates and change this to let's say 90 degrees. So we have the plane in 90 degrees. We can scale this down. We'll move it up and we will position it so that it sort of fills the space that we have created. So we have the screen sorted like this. So we have a screen and it covers the area pretty well. Okay. Now let's call this the screen. What we are going to do right now is we have to create the legs for this character. So to do that, we are going to go to the primitive settings here and we are going to select a capsule. So we're going to click a capsule. Let's move this slightly out of the box, and then we can see the capsule right here. We need to increase the scale in here, the basic height of the capsule. So we can just come here and increase this a bit. So we have increased the size. We can increase the height segments also right now. So we are going to add the bend deformer right here onto the capsule to make the leg. So the higher the polygons, the better your bend modifier is going to be. So it's very important that you add as many polygons as possible without making your system too slow. So you need to find the right balance in here. So I think this is fine for us. And what we're going to do is we are going to add a bend modifier. So just go here and add a bend. We'll take the bend and drag it into the capsule to make a child of it. So with the bend selected, we can click on fit to parent so that the gizmo just snaps onto the capsule right now. So we have it here. Now if we change the strength, we can bend it in the direction that we want. So I'm going to just bend it like this. Now we don't want the bend to be affecting the entire structure. So what we can do is we just move it slightly to this. We can select the bend modifier and move only that so that we can see that the gizmo is affecting where it needs to affect, right? So I think this is working for us. We can increase the strength a little more. So I think this is good enough for our capsule. We can reduce the scale in proportion to our TV set. So since we have done it, we can just go to the all view port. So we just click on this button so that it resets back to a 4-view viewport. So we're going to just adjust the leg and position it right below the TV. So just make sure that we have selected the capsule, just move it so that it sits right under your television set like this. Yeah. This is fine. Okay, we can create a duplicate of this again. So we can create another leg. So just make sure that this is selected, press Ctrl on your keyboard and drag it in the direction you want the duplicate to be. So you're going to move it slightly to this direction, and you can see that we have created 2 legs as well for our character. So this is good enough, and that's fine. So we might want to scale up the whole TV and screen. So you can just select it, you can scale it up a bit so that this sort of looks good, right? Now we have the legs and our TV set all set. So let's name this as leg 1 and leg 2, and let's take all of this and group it by pressing Alt G and calling it TV. So this is our entire TV, the entire model. Before that, we need to add 2 eyes into our TV model. So let's go here and take 2 spheres and create our eyes, and we are moving it outside the box. Let's scale it down, scale it really down, and bring it to the screen so we can see that okay, we have somewhat of an eye. That's good. So we'll sort of position it like this. Press Ctrl on your keyboard, drag it to create a duplicate key. So we have 2 eyes right now. So just rename this so that it will be easier for us to manage. I2. take two eyes and drag it into our TV group. So everything right now is inside the TV, and it's looking pretty cool. So we need to create the table. So what we're going to do is just go with basic primitives. So again, we're going to select a cube. I'm going to just resize it so that it sort of fits the okay, it looks good. And we'll go to the top view. We can see that yeah, this is how it looks. It's pretty good. And we need to create the legs. We're going to select a cube again. We're going to scale it down. So let's scale it down, and we will go into this view. We can see the cube. So let's select the cube, move it to one of the sides, scale it again, and we need to scale it in one axis so that it creates a table like this. So we're going to do that, and we'll move it to the ground like this. Now what we can do is we can go to the top view, and we can create the 4 legs and position them correctly. So we are going to keep one leg right here and press Control, drag it to create the second copy of it. So we have the second copy right here. So we have 2 cubes. Select the 2 cubes, press Control again, and drag it in the other axis to create the other 2 legs. So we have all the 4 legs right now. We can take all of this, Shift, select all the cubes, press Ctrl Alt G to create a group and call it table. So we have that also set. So we have our TV and our table. Just arrange it in this right order so that we can see how things are. Now what we need to do is we need to create a ground, right? So we need to have a ground plane. So before that, let's see if our object is sitting right on the axis. So we can go here onto this view, select our TV and table, and move it so that it sits in the ground plane axis, sort of in the center of the scene, right? So it's sort of sitting on the axis. Now what we're going to do is we will create a plane. So an easy option is that I have a preset shape right here called the elf curve. So if I do that, it's going to create a studio seamless background shape. You can easily create this with a spline and an extrude modifier. But for making it pretty fast, I'm just going to click that preset shape, and it almost comes like this. And then I'm just going to replace it and scale it so that it fits our viewport. So let's scale it up. And okay, it sort of fills a view right now, and it looks good. So we have it right now. Now if I render the scene, you'll see that there is no data, there is no light, there is no shadow, because we haven't added any of that. There are no materials either. So let's start by adding a light into the scene. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a sky object. So just go to this setting and then click on the sky. So we have created a sky, and what we need to do now is to go to our render settings and into the effects, and then add a global illumination effect so that the sky will be used to illuminate what is in here. But right now the sky will not have any data in it, no colors in it. So we're going to use a map, an HDRI map, a high dynamic range image, as the texture for the sky. So we're going to go into the internet and look up an HDRI map. So go to images and look for some high quality images. Okay, we have this image right now. Let's try and use this image. So save image as, and I'm going to save it as a JPEG down into our system. Now all we have to do is take this JPEG image and drag it to our material port. So it's going to ask to create a path. Just click no, and it's going to create a material right here. So all you have to do is drag this material right into the sky, and it's going to create a sky in here. Now if we render, we are starting to see our object clearly with some neat shadows and all that. But the problem that we are facing is that we are not able to, there is not enough light that we are getting from the scene. So to solve that, just click on this material tag. We'll come here and there is a thumbnail of that material that we are using. Click on that and there is an exposure setting right here. Just increase the exposure a bit. So now we can see that the light in the scene is a little more brighter. So we can see things more clearly right now. And this is what we need exactly. So now let's start working on the materials. We'll just add some basic materials. So just go to create and click on a new material. And we are going to use this to give a material to our TV. So what we're going to do is we are going to choose a color, which is maybe red, could be an interesting choice. So let's say, or maybe purple. I don't know, any color, any bright colors will work pretty cool in here. So I'm going to create a purple tint right here. So the one option that I've selected is color, and let's go and create some reflectance in here. So if we are going into reflectance, you'll see that by default there is a reflectance layer which is added, default specular. You can remove that. We are going to create one from scratch. So what we're going to do right here is we will add a reflection legacy layer and we will set it up from here. So we have that. And what we're going to do is we will try to bring down the reflection strength first. So let's bring down the reflection strength. We're going to bring it down. Still, it's going to create a very chrome look, right? And that's not exactly what we want. What we want is we want to see the purple colors that we applied on this. So what we need to do is that we need to, we can either change the blending mode and then reduce the opacity of it. So I'm just going to bring down the opacity of that particular layer so I can still get some reflective property and also I can see the color, right? So this is what something very important that you need to do. Now you can see that the material reflection which is having, it is very sharp right now. You can reduce it by increasing the roughness so that the reflection becomes more blurry and more abstract. So let's try with this. So 13% roughness, we're going to create that material. So we need this to be applied to our TV. So what we're going to do is we'll take this, we'll add it to our TV head. So we have added that to our TV head. We are going to add it to our legs. So 2 of the legs, we're going to add that. And we want the same material to be in the background as well. So we're going to take it and drag it to the L curve, the background object as well. So we have done that. So now the next material that we need to create is for the screen. So just create a new material and we'll create a digital green LCD look for that screen. So let's go here and create that look. Maybe we can add a little bit of luminance in here. So just turn on the luminance and we can reduce the brightness of that so it is slightly brighter. So we have that screen color. So just drag and drop it to the screen so we can see that LCD look right in there. For the eyes, we don't have any colors right now. Just create a matte black color. So let's create, go to color, or maybe we can turn off the color and reflectance and it's going to be a matte black. So just take it and drop it into your eye. So we have all the things which is set in the TV. Our materials for TV is done. Our materials for the L curve and the sky is already done. We have to put some materials on the table. So let's go to create new material and let's try and emulate some wood effect right in here. So create a brown gradient sort of thing. Yeah, and that sort of works. Right, so we'll take it and drag it to our table and our materials are done. Now let's take a quick render and see how our results are looking. So the image looks pretty cool. We are getting some interesting reflection. We are getting some sort of gradient light effect in here, a glow, and we are able to see some sort of reflection happening here, an interesting shadow, and we are pretty much done. We are getting the effects that we actually spoke about. Now, let's try bringing in a camera and try to emulate some physical camera effects. So to do that, what we're going to do is we are going to go to camera and create a camera right here. We're going to click and choose our view. So we are right now viewing through the camera, and we have to set our focal length. Let's choose something which is a little more closer, right? So this is an 80 mm lens. We have selected an 80 mm lens. We can click and zoom out a bit like this. So I have selected that, and I've zoomed out by using my mouse. So we are in the 8 mm mode. The object or the focus distance, we can click it and we can choose that. I'm going to select the eye of the object. So right now the focus distance is this. In the next option, the physical option, we can set our aperture. So right now the aperture is not that wide open, so it is going to give us a defocus, which means that everything in the shot is going to be in sharp focus. But I don't want that effect. I want it to have a very shallow depth of field which emulates a toy photography. So this is a miniature object. So if you're shooting on a macro lens or a wider aperture lens, it's going to create a very shallow depth of field. So I want to create that sequence, that effect. So I'm going to bring down my focus to 0.5. But that's not enough. We have to change our renderer from standard to physical to enable depth of field. So once you have switched your renderer to physical, you come to physical and then enable depth of field. Now your depth of field is enabled in the scene, and if you render, you can see that it's going to emulate an actual camera depth of field. So right now you can see that the focus object that we have selected, which is this part, is in sharp focus, and anything beyond that area is going to slowly blur out and go out of focus. This is what happens when you try to photograph a miniature object close enough. So you're going to get a lot of camera blurs. So that's pretty much it. And now you have your digital character ready, right? So you can experiment with camera angles here. You can experiment with the HDR lighting setup, and you're going to get a very interesting effect. I'll see you next time with a new video. Let me know your comments and thoughts, and take care, be safe, bye.